From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Thank you, Catherine Drew. Welcome to Thursday's Richie Allen Show. Hope you're well. It's good to be back live with you. It's good to be live with you. And I'm only live because of a late change to the programme today. You can tweet me then because it's live. It's at Richie Allen Show on Twitter. If you've got something to tell me, tell me.
Welcome back to the most listened to independent radio show in Europe. It's your Richie Allen Show.
And by the way, it's back to normal next week. 7 p.m. UK time starts live next week. 2 hours back to normal. All right. Right, let's do it. Let's do today's programme.
It's the Richie Allen Show. Broadcasting live on richieallen.co.uk and multiple platforms around the world. And now, here's your host, Richie Allen.
It's another warm one. It's very warm again. What a summer we're having here in the UK and in South Manchester. Thursday, July the 5th, 2018. And our American listeners, I hope you had a good day yesterday, celebrating Independence Day. I was going to be joined today by David Vance. David is the editor of the editor of bias2bbc.org, but he was called away late in the day, so I had to have a bit of a rethink and gather more content of interest to you and to me. So I've done that, and we are live. Do help me spread the word, though, that this programme will be repeated, of course, at 7 p.m. UK time this evening and at 10 p.m. this evening. It will be repeated, and we're back to normal, as I said, next week. Right. Loads to get into. Hi to my friend Himanshi. How you doing, Himanshi? Who's not far from Delhi in India, where it's into the late evenings there, and she's listening to the show. Good to be with you, Himanshi. Nice to be hearing from you today. Put a smile on my face, so it did. Right, straight off the bat, there's only one story in town today. All the media, well, the UK media anyway, is in Wiltshire, Amesbury and Salisbury, presenting from there. The drama is gripping. Well, it's not really gripping. It's just the same old shit on a different day. But Kay is there. Our Kay Burley, don't we love Kay? Go on, Kay.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Sky News live from Salisbury, a city that is once again at the centre of a nerve agent poisoning. Still no explanation as to how a Wiltshire couple came into contact with Novichok, the same substance that poisoned a former Russian spy and his daughter. The Home Secretary says they hadn't visited any of the sites that were decontaminated after Sergei and Yulia Skripal were nearly killed.
Our strong working assumption is that the couple came into contact with the nerve agent in a different location to the sites which have been part of the original clean-up operation.
The house where Rowley and Dawn Sturgess were found in nearby Amesbury is at the centre of a huge counter-terror investigation.
Go on, Kay. Kay Burley is there, looking grim, looking glum. Serious stuff, this. Bear in mind what Home Secretary Sajid Javid said when he thinks they came into contact with the Novichok agent somewhere else. Keep that in mind. We'll return to that. So Sajid Javid, the Home Secretary, has been asking Russia to explain itself. Explain how these two people, Rowley and Dawn Sturgess, how they came to be contaminated by Novichok. Javid said the nerve agent was the same type as that which ex-Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter were exposed to back in March. They're very quick, aren't they, at testing these things when it suits them. He said 100 counter-terrorism officers were working with Wiltshire police. 100! 100! They need 100, apparently. Sounds very American, that, doesn't it? I had to pull 75 agents out of Miami. Pull them out of my ass. Send them to Wiltshire. It's now time that the Russian state comes forward and explains exactly what's gone on, said Home Secretary Sajid Javid. Do you want to hear Sajid Javid in a bit more detail? What was he saying today?
The decision taken by the Russian government to deploy these in Salisbury on March the 4th was reckless and callous. There is no plausible alternative explanation to the events in March other than the Russian state was responsible. And we acted accordingly. The British government and the international community immediately and robustly condemn this inhuman action. In light of this attack, the UK expelled 23 Russian diplomats from our shores, and we were joined by 28 of our closest allies in this action, from the United States to Ukraine, who expelled over 150 of the Russian state's diplomats.
Where is he going with? He's very hard to listen to, isn't he, Sajid Javid? Where is he going with this bollocks? After March, we all expelled the diplomats and they expelled the diplomats. You'll see where he's going in a second.
We have already seen multiple explanations from state-sponsored Russian media regarding this latest incident. We can anticipate further disinformation from the Kremlin, as we saw following the Salisbury attack. And as we did before, we will be consulting with our international partners and allies following these latest developments. The eyes of the world are currently on Russia, not least because of the World Cup. It is now time that the Russian state comes forward and explains exactly what has gone on. Let me be clear. We do not have a quarrel with the Russian people. Rather, it is the actions of the Russian government that continue to undermine our security and that of the international community. We will stand up to the actions that threaten our security and the security of our partners. It is completely unacceptable for our people to be either deliberate or accidental targets, or for our streets, our parks, our towns to be dumping grounds for poison.
Well, it's the same dumping grounds for poison, eh? It's the same old shite, accusation after accusation after accusation, followed by no evidence. Nothing. Not a sausage. Just that the Russians did it. The Kremlin is going to start putting out all of this propaganda. You see, they're trying to head off Russian television and Russian newspapers and the Kremlin and Putin. They're trying to head him off. They're going to say this and they're going to say that. Well, of course they are. Are you going to prove them wrong? Are you going to provide any evidence? What about the Prime Minister, Theresa May? She's in Berlin meeting with Angela Merkel on Brexit business. And she might just have given the game away in a statement she made to the media earlier this afternoon, with respect to what this latest poisoning story is really all about. I think May, as in Theresa May, gave the game away.
Can I also take this opportunity to say thank you for the support that Germany has shown us in recent weeks, and the unwavering support you showed us after the chemical weapons attack that took place in Salisbury. And of course my thoughts are with the people of Wiltshire, following the fact that we have seen 2 people this week again affected by this nerve agent. To see 2 more people exposed to the Novichok in the UK is obviously deeply disturbing, and the police, I know, will be leaving no stone unturned in their investigation in relation to what has happened. In our meeting today, I'm sure we will also have an opportunity to look ahead to the NATO summit next week, and we can talk about modernising the alliance for the future.
That just might be it. There's a NATO meeting next week to talk about strengthening the alliance against Russia, of course, because Russia is the greatest bastard of a country that ever existed. It's interfering in elections, it's sacking other states, Crimea, of course, Syria, it's propping up the bastard Bashar. So we have a NATO meeting coming up. And, as May says in a second, there's also a Balkan states meeting going on in London next week. What a coincidence! Just before those meetings. And, at the same time, May is up to the wazoo with Brexit going south. What a coincidence that we have something happening in Wiltshire that can be blamed on Russia. So NATO is meeting. Now she talks about a meeting of the Balkan states.
Future. But I also want to look forward to the visit that you will be making to London next week for the Western Balkans Summit, which of course is the latest summit that takes place in the course of events that you established through the Berlin process and this diplomatic initiative to provide that support and welcoming to the countries in the Western Balkans, and to see how we can help them to move forward and in terms not just of our commitment to that region but also to European security more generally.
European security more generally. Angela, you're off to the Balkan meeting in London. We've got the NATO meeting. What a wonderful bit of timing this is that two people have fallen ill, are fighting for their lives in hospital, and we are saying that they were exposed to Novichok that was found at none of the sites where Skripal and his daughter were poisoned. This is just too good to be true. Wonderful. Then she starts talking about the international order of things. Listen to the language they use. We often talk about symbolism on the programme, symbology, occult symbology, what it means. Language is also very important for these people. They give the game away with their language. Listen to what she says next.
Generally, there are other shared challenges that we face. Obviously, tackling the illegal migration issue is one that we have had discussions on, but reinforcing the international rules-based order as well. I think there is much for us to talk about, but also, like you, I look forward to a very positive future relationship.
Yeah, reinforcing the international rules-based order. It's a lovely bit of political speak, isn't it there? The international rules-based order, straight out of the Agenda 21, Agenda 30 playbook, that. NATO meeting, Balkan states meeting next week. The timing is brilliant. Good old Kay Burley for Sky News is in Wiltshire, Salisbury. As I said, the ginger ninja is hanging around like a stale fart, as she always does at all of these productions, which is what they are, productions. I've done extensive work on this in the last few years, explaining what these channels are, these 24-hour media channels. They are not news outlets. They are theatre companies. She's interviewing folks from there. She's there and she's interviewing folks, but she's also interviewing academics like Tara McCormick, who is an academic from Leicester University. Tara is an international relations lecturer. And Tara McCormick is not convinced that Sajid Javid is right to blame the Russians.
Well, I think that I've just watched the Home Secretary's statement and he said unequivocally there is literally no other explanation for what happened with the original poisoning, the Skripals poisoning. Happily, the Skripals have recovered. Now, that is simply not supported by the known facts. That statement is not supported by the known facts. We know from Reuters, for example, there was a big investigation from New Scientist that Novichok has been produced in several countries. The German intelligence services, for example, received samples from Russia in the 1990s. We know that Porton Down must have it. So Porton Down themselves on Sky News, as you will recall, said categorically that whilst they could identify the substance, they could not identify where it was from. And that was to counter Boris Johnson's assertion that we knew absolutely that Russia had done it. I debated Tom Tuggenbutt, who said unequivocally we knew the lab from where this substance had come. But that does not seem to be supported by the facts. Now, a couple of weeks ago, one of the German parliamentary committees took evidence from the German government, and it's surprising this wasn't reported very much in the British media. And the German government said to the parliamentary committee that there was no evidence, that Britain had presented Germany with no evidence of Russian involvement, and that the German secret services also did not have any evidence. So I would argue that the facts, as they are known, do not support what the Home Secretary has said so far. In fact, this second poisoning raises, again, many questions.
Yes, the Germans have said they've seen no proof it was Russia. Porton Down Lab said that they know what it is, but not where it came from. What was Kay Burley's response to the logic of the academic Tara McCormick? Well, her response was to flap flap, 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 K, flap.
Yes, certainly does. I.e., where does the Novichok come from? Where is it, and how do we get rid of it? But 28 countries looked at 28 countries looked at the information that was provided to them by the intelligence services here in the United Kingdom, and all of those 28 countries felt strongly enough to expel diplomats, 150 in total. Are they all wrong?
No. All I can tell you is that there was recently a German parliamentary sort of report. The German government gave evidence to a German parliamentary committee. I believe it was the parliamentary committee or a committee on parliamentary oversight, equivalent of what we will have here. And it was reported in the German media that the German government said they had no evidence. They had been given no evidence from the British government of Russian involvement, and that the German intelligence services also could find no evidence. Now, there are plenty of reasons for NATO countries, for European Union countries to want to demonstrate unity. But all I can say is this is something that has happened in Germany. It appears that there was no categorical evidence given to Germany. And that in itself, to me, is a very interesting question. And I was surprised that this was not reported more by the British media.
Good to talk to you. Thanks so much indeed for joining us.
Yeah, it wasn't very good to talk to her though, Kay, was it? Let's be honest about it. She did you up like a kipper. Like a kipper. Devastating analysis. And she put the boot in twice there, McCormick. Twice, she said, in each of those clips. Surprised the UK media didn't report on the parliamentary committee in Germany hearing from the German government that the German government didn't have any evidence from the British government that the Russians were behind the poisoning of the Skripals back in March. Then Burley introduces Sky correspondent Mark White to try and repair the damage caused by Tara McCormick. This guy, Mark White's just a correspondent. He's a proper beauty.
Mark White is still here. So, might not have been the Russians. There's no evidence that it was the Russians.
Well, the difficulty is there are lots of people out there, not just the sort of conspiracy theorists that love to jump on these things, but other people who you might not expect would start questioning that, are starting to question the official stories that are out there. And part of the reason is because there is a lack of information that is coming from the likes of Scotland Yard. And while there is a vacuum, it gets filled with all kinds of speculation as to what actually might be at play, and people suggesting, could it have been some kind of material that's actually found its way out of Porton Down? All these kind of theories that are out there, and because there is no real official explanation beyond we believe that this was Russia who was involved in this hit on Sergei and Yulia Skripal, then people are starting to speculate.
Ridiculous. Conspiracy theories, he said. Piss off, Mark. In the vacuum of information, he said, people are speculating. The irony is sickening. There is no explanation from Scotland Yard or MI5 because the media isn't holding their feet to the fire. The limp-dicked media repeats and rinses what MI5 says and the police. It's patently ridiculous. So in the vacuum left by the absence of real journalism, people begin to connect the dots. Because they've heard it and they've seen it all before. They know that this is a horse shit story. The conspiracy theories are actually coming from the UK government with no evidence. The irony, you see, they use these terms to try and ridicule their own story. They use these terms to try and ridicule those questioning their story while their story falls apart. It's ironic. It's the only conspiracy theorists in the room are the presenters and the correspondents and the live on the scene reporters. It got more surreal as the afternoon wore on. We next hear from a guy called, where did they drag this guy out of? A guy called Major General Chip Chapman.
To infinity and beyond.
No, not him. Chip Chapman isn't fictional. What did he say? Chip Chapman, Jesus wept.
Major General Chip Chapman, who's the former head of the counter-terror at the Ministry of Defence. How challenging is it for the security services to balance their investigations against that of the wishes of politicians who want answers yesterday?
It's absolutely a terrible dilemma because, of course, you can only convict people on the basis of evidence, not on the basis of intelligence. So you need a long investigative process, and we were warned quite quickly after the 4th of March attack that this investigation may take a number of months or even a number of years. So this isn't something which is going to be unlocked quickly by political will.
So why are you blaming the Russians then? If it's going to take weeks, months or years to understand how this was put together forensically, these attacks, why are you blaming the Russians? And you know, you have to suspend your disbelief here, as you always do with the MSM, because this Novichok is miraculous if you believe their own stories. Because back in March, the mainstream media told us after the Skripals were allegedly poisoned, they said that the traces of Novichok nerve agents didn't linger, it didn't hang around. And they rolled out a guy at the time called Professor Robert Stockman of Nottingham University, who said that these nerve agents react with water and the air, including moisture in the air, and they have a very limited lifetime. This is why they hosed down all of Salisbury after the Skripal Skripal incident. It doesn't hang around. So how could these people have encountered it? It's also interesting that Charlie Rowley, one of these two people who's apparently fighting for his life, is a registered heroin addict. And that on Saturday last, the police and the attending physicians thought that this was actually drug related. So with all these holes in the story, massive holes, even by their own standards, what does the establishment do? Well, it warns you away from the Russian media. Have a listen to Mike Gapes, MP. When Sajid Javid, the Home Secretary, gave his speech today, when he informed, updated Parliament on what's going on, he took questions from MPs. Listen to Mike Gapes.
Mike Gapes.
Mr. Speaker, the St. Petersburg troll factories and the RT propaganda channel are already gearing up to spread misinformation. Couldn't we at least do a little bit more to expose this, and particularly members of this House on all sides not appear on Putin's propaganda television channel?
I think, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is absolutely right to raise this issue. There have been far too many incidents where members of this House sadly have supported the Russian propaganda machine, and RT, for example, is one way they have done that. If any member of this House has an ounce of common sense, they will realise, especially after the second incident, that the British public will not support any of them if they support President Putin.
You fascist bastard, Javid! That's all you are, you and every other fucker in that house. How dare you? How dare you, as an elected official, tell anybody not to cooperate with, not to speak to, or not to answer the press? This is the definition of fascism. When these corporate-controlled, bankster elite-controlled whoremongers like Javid can demonise the press for doing its job, which is poking holes in their fucking ridiculous stories. Ever more ridiculous. They get more ridiculous on a daily basis. Pathetic stories. Drug addicts collapse on Saturday, and we're told on Tuesday that they were exposed to Novichok. Fuck off. It's garbage. None of it makes sense. I can say that, and I've never been so strong as I am now on anything coming out of the media or the government. But it's obviously rubbish, this. Ridiculous. And they're telling you now, ignore the media that is asking questions about this. And it's only Russian media and maybe Press TV. And then you're left with the genuine independent media that's asking these questions. And of course, they're coming after the genuine independent media next. Get rid of us so that we can't poke holes in their ridiculous stories. 27 minutes past 4 as we do this live, July 5th, 2018. Very quick break, back in a minute with plenty more.
Have you lost access to important data from a computer hard drive, mobile phone, or other storage device? Maybe you have a broken hard drive containing years of information, or a smartphone that no longer works from which you'd like the pictures, movies, and chats recovered. If you would like to recover data from any type of digital device, including desktop and laptop computers, external hard drives, cameras, smartphones, NAS, and RAID servers, then contact Data Clinic today at dataclinic.co.uk now.
There's a place high in the mountains of Spain, a sanctuary where souls gather from all around the globe to learn about themselves and experience powerful changes in the way we see our world. They become awakened to their gifts and their power to heal others. Become part of this ever-growing worldwide family of unique, pure energy healing practitioners. Discover how amazing you truly are. Go to www.markbayerski.com. It could just change your life forever. Forever.
Introducing the H2O app, a powerful water structuring application that programs vibrational energies into water through the use of different sound frequencies. Once programmed, the use of water for drinking, cooking, bathing. Give it to your friends and colleagues or spread it around the garden. The list goes on. It's not just water that the app can be used for either. It's great for programming crystals too. The H2O app is free to download and is available on both Android and Apple platforms. For further information, go to h2oapp.online.
The Richie Allen Show relies on your support. Go to richieallen.co.uk and set up a monthly donation today.
Unbelievable stuff. We'll move on from that story there in Wiltshire. We'll leave it alone. I've said all that I can say on it. It is patently ridiculous. It is absolutely horrific. Do you know, the thing that kills me about the likes of Kay Burley and some of those correspondents, what really hurts me as a real journalist, as somebody who was taught how to produce material and how to challenge material, how to disseminate material, as somebody who was taught how to do that by terrific journalists, it sickens me that Kay Burley is handed her arse by a Leicester University academic like Tara McCormick, a good woman obviously. How has journalism come to this? When Burley is standing there like a fucking fool. And when McCormick says, do you know there was a German parliamentary committee which grilled the German government a couple of weeks ago and found out that the German government does not believe the Skripal story. And that was the first that Kay Burley heard about it. Don't think I'm giving Burley a pass. I don't think I'm wrong. I'm right. I know more about this than most. Burley wouldn't have a Scooby-Doo. Dreadful. Hung out to dry, Burley, by her producers and by the journalists back at base, the ones you never see. Dreadful stuff. Here's some positive news. At least it might be positive, he says, as he does the Jackie Gleason, Smokey and the Bandit. Calm down. Calm down there. MEPs, that's members of the European Parliament, they voted to reject a controversial copyright law in its current form and will return to the issue in September. We've talked a lot about this. This is a copyright law which includes clauses like Article 13, which would be devastating for journalism and devastating for freedom on the internet. The law would have put, writes the BBC, it would have put a greater responsibility on individual websites to check for copyright infringements. The inventor of the internet, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, and others had expressed concerns about the proposed new rules, which they said threatened internet freedom. Opponents of the law have greeted the decision as a victory. I wouldn't be so excited yet as to call it a victory. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Julia Reda, a Pirate Party MEP who campaigned against the legislation, tweeted, "Great success, your protests have worked. The European Parliament has sent the copyright law back to the drawing board." Now, the Copyright Directive is intended to bring rules around content in line with the digital age. The two most controversial parts of it are Article 11 and 13. I just mentioned 13. The first of these is intended to provide fair remuneration for publishers and prevent online content sharing platforms and news aggregators sharing links without paying for them. That has been called the link tax by opponents, quite rightly. Article 13 puts more onus on websites to enforce copyright laws and could mean that any online platform that allows users to post text, images, sounds or code will need a way to assess and filter that content. So it's been rejected by MEPs. They're going to have a look at it again in September. It would be the death even of this programme. And as you're listening to this programme, I'll talk about this programme. I won't mention others because you're listening to this one. If these rules are passed, it's game over for this show. It won't have anything to do with financing or advertising or any of that. It'll mean I won't be able to do what it is I do. I won't be able to discuss information broadcast by the mainstream media, and I certainly won't be able to criticise it by way of playing it or replaying it. And that's just one tiny facet of it. Alright, so it's been sent back 26 minutes to 5 p.m. July 7th, this is the Richie Allen Show, live right now on Fab Radio 2. Tune in, radio, richieallen.co.uk. And we might be live on triggerwarning.tv, but I'm not sure. I didn't tell Hayden in time, I don't think. Now, big story this in Australia. We've been covering this for the last couple of years, ever since it was mooted as an idea. And this is the idea to punish people for not getting their children vaccinated. Mandatory vaccinations to be enforced by fining parents who don't obey the law. Deadly stuff this, isn't it? This is deadly. Australia, writes the Independent newspaper, has strengthened its no jab, no pay policy by issuing further financial sanctions to parents who refuse to vaccinate their children. Parents will now lose $28 or £16 a fortnight from their tax benefits for each child who isn't up to date with their immunisations. Previously, parents whose children were not up to date with vaccinations would lose an end-of-year payment to their family tax benefit worth around $737 Australian dollars. This new fortnightly sanction will see parents lose out on roughly the same amount, but is said to serve as a more constant reminder. Those earning over $80 Australian dollars a day will also have further penalties imposed. The move is part of an ongoing clampdown by the Australian government on the anti-vaxxer movement after the percentage of children under 7 with a conscientious objection to immunisation rose from 0.23% in 1999 to 1.77% in December 2014. That's according to Australia's Parliament. See what's happening in the period from 1999 to 3 years ago. More and more people were opting out of vaccinating their children by way of conscientiously objecting, because more and more people were finding through independent media sources that vaccines can be potentially harmful to their children. The Minister for Social Services in Australia is a guy called Dan Tehan, and he said the clampdown was necessary to protect public health. Wow. This is Channel 7 News in Brisbane.
Parents who refuse to immunise their children will begin paying for the choice from today. The government will slash fortnightly family payments by $28 per unvaccinated child as part of their no jab, no pay policy. The scheme will affect those who collect the Family Tax Benefit Part A. Also, from today, the government will make available free whooping cough vaccines for expecting mothers and meningococcal vaccines for infants.
Yeah, stick them with loads of needles. Why not? Turn them into human pin cushions, young babies. Why the fuck not, eh? Lovely and tyrannical. Stick this tidal wave of toxic shit in your child or we'll starve you. We'll starve you. You're on benefits, get the child vaccinated or we'll fine you, remove your benefits and thus starve you and your child. Why not? Do you know what's worse than that? If you think anything couldn't be worse than that, it gets worse because Australia's next door neighbour, New Zealand, well, New Zealand can't wait to join in the carnage and start punishing people for not vaccinating their children. This is a TV show in New Zealand called The Project. And they interviewed a doctor. I say they. The Project is a panel show in front of a live audience, and the presenters are monumental muppets. Idiots. So, The Project in New Zealand and the presenters interviewed a Dr. Lance O'Sullivan. Lance wants people fined in New Zealand. Let's all be just like Australia.
Yeah, I would suggest that New Zealand government follows this this initiative, and that we encourage people through proactive measures like this to vaccinate their children. We know that this will give their children better health outcomes, and actually the population in New Zealand. So I would say yes, go for it.
Don't measures like the ones we're seeing in Australia, though, unfairly target poor people? They don't go far enough.
Yeah, look, you could say that increasing the taxes on smokers, knowing that more smokers are in, you know, in lower class, in lower socioeconomic populations of New Zealand, it does the same thing. But we have to be brave and courageous and say, look, when we know something is so harmful as smoking or so protective as a vaccination, we just have to be able to make a stand and say we need to do this to protect the children.
Lance, you work in an area where there's a lot of need. Do you think that your families, the people that you treat, would be on board with an idea like this?
Look, when most people are shown the science and the absolute benefit of vaccination, then most people come to a sensible conclusion. I think the problem is that there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and I think this is where, again, government needs to show leadership and, you know, and say, look, this is good for your child, and we're going to put some measures in place to encourage people to make the right decision.
What a plonker, system whore, but who's worse than him, the presenters? Because none of them says to him, hey Lance, a lot of people will think that this is pretty tyrannical, being told by the state that they must inject their children lest they be punished financially. What do you say to those people, Lance? Because they are out there. See, even if the presenter doesn't agree with that, it's your job to put that question to him. Fine people, Lance, yeah. But what about people who don't want to put this stuff in their children and believe that the child is better served by not having the vaccination, by growing up naturally? What do you think, Lance? No chance on this programme. It gets worse, though. Apparently, lots of secondary schools in New Zealand are concerned about news coming out of Ireland and elsewhere about the HPV vaccine Gardasil and what it's doing to young women. Over 70 schools in New Zealand will not give it to the girls. Get in there. What did Lance O'Sullivan say when asked about it? The presenters can't wait to suggest that the schools lose funding unless they roll out the vaccines.
How about this other idea that we were floating today? So there are schools that won't give out this HPV vaccine, about 73 schools nationwide, I think it is.
Yeah.
So why doesn't the government defund those schools as a bit
Why
of
not?
an incentive?
Yeah, well, I'd agree with that. I think, again, schools are meant to be a site where, you know, we see leadership and children and families, communities seeing sound decisions being made. If there's a decision where HPV vaccination isn't supported by a school, I'd say that should be reflected in what funding they get, yeah.
Dr. Lance O'Sullivan, thanks so much.
She just had an orgasm there. Oh, Lance, you're amazing, Lance. Unbelievable. Just ask him a question, you daft fucking mayor. Ask one question of him. Do your job, for once. Defund schools because they're concerned that hundreds and hundreds of girls in Ireland are collapsing after this shit. Not just Ireland, of course. You're amazing, Lance. Then one of her co-presenters, straight after that interview with Lance, one of her co-presenters actually talked about the horrors of vaccinating his baby, but then said it was a good thing. Feast your ears.
We've got our 12-week vaccinations coming up for our new baby.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm not looking forward to, because the 3-week one, I burst into tears. And because that needle went into my child and she looked me straight in the eye and was silent for 2 seconds and then screamed at a pitch and volume I didn't know existed.
You spend all that time looking after them and then you've got to take them to the doctor knowing they're going to give them the jab.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah, I feel very guilty.
Yeah. Did the doctor give you a sticker or something to cheer you up?
No, but there was a container of lollipops and I grabbed a big handful on the way up.
Yeah.
That made me feel better.
Good.
The essence of the sheep. When my 3-week-old daughter, 3-week-old daughter, was stuck with a needle, she did nothing for a couple of seconds, and then she screamed a sound I'd never heard anything like before. What a fucking idiot, eh? I mean, oh Christ, I tell you what we'll do. We'll take a break at 17 minutes to 5 on Thursday, July 5th, 2018. When we come back, we're going to talk about Miss Universe. We sure are.
Have you lost access to important data from a computer hard drive, mobile phone, or other storage device? Maybe you have a broken hard drive containing years of information, or a smartphone that no longer works from which you'd like the pictures, movies, and chats recovered. If you would like to recover data from any type of digital device, including desktop and laptop computers, external hard drives, cameras, smartphones, NAS, and RAID servers, then contact Data Clinic today at dataclinic.co.uk now.
There's a place high in the mountains of Spain, a sanctuary where souls gather from all around the globe to learn about themselves and experience powerful changes in the way we see our world. They become awakened to their gifts and their power to heal others. Become part of this ever-growing worldwide family of unique, pure energy healing practitioners. Discover how amazing you truly are. Go to www.markbayerski.com. It could just change your life forever. Forever.
Introducing the H2O app, a powerful water structuring application that programs vibrational energies into water through the use of different sound frequencies. Once programmed, the use of water for drinking, cooking, bathing. Give it to your friends and colleagues or spread it around the garden. The list goes on. It's not just water that the app can be used for either. It's great for programming crystals too. The H2O app is free to download and is available on both Android and Apple platforms. For further information, go to h2oapp.online.
Welcome back to the most listened to independent radio show in Europe. It's your Richie Allen Show.
Welcome back. It's 15 minutes to 5. If you're listening to this on the 7 p.m. showing or the 7 p.m. playing, which is the regular playing, recorded live earlier, 10 p.m. as well. Back to normal, remember. Back to normal next week with 7 p.m. live shows as usual. This week, it was a blessing to do the early afternoon pre-records this week because of the heat, which is extraordinary. I know one or two people were taking the piss out of me saying that they have jobs where they're exposed to extraordinary heat. That's fine. I actually don't give a shit. Well, when it comes to this, it's purely selfish. How many computers are here at the moment? There are 5 computers running. Big computers, big machines. There is a broadcast desk, a radio studio desk, Allen and Heath, the last word in technology, running as well. The heat in the room is extraordinary. And in the early evening, because of the way the house faces, it gets to 43, 44 degrees in the room with the equipment. You just can't do it. You can't present. It's going to be difficult next week, but I'm going to do it anyway because I don't like this pre-recording in the day thing. Right, time for a little bit of fuckery files.
What kind of fuckery is this?
Da-da-dum. Miss Spain is going to make history when she becomes the first transgender contestant to compete at the Miss Universe competition. Miss Spain. Angela, I don't know how to pronounce this, and I lived in Spain long enough, and I don't want to insult Angela. Angela, I think it's Ponce. Ponce. I know naysayers in the UK will say it's pronounced Ponce, Richie. It's Ponce. Ponce is a derogatory term here in the UK for a bit of an Egypt. If somebody's a Ponce, he's a bit of an Egypt. I think there's another explanation for it as well. So it's Angela Ponce, I think. 26 years old, from Seville, a city I know well, visited it many times in my many years in Spain. Angela Ponce will be representing Spain at the global competition later this year after beating 22 other contestants to win the Miss Spain crown.
What kind of fuckery are you?
What did the other 22 contestants think when they were beaten by a transgender contestant? Anyway, Angela Ponce says bringing the name and colours of Spain before the universe is my great dream. My goal is to be a spokesperson for a message of inclusion, respect and diversity, not only for the LGBTQ plus community, but also for the entire world. Angela previously competed to represent Spain at Miss World in 2015, but came second. If at first you don't succeed, just keep going until the progressives demand that you win and represent your country at Miss Universe. So how has this come about? Well, Miss Universe changed its minimum entry requirements in 2013. The minimum entry requirements back in 2013 presumably were that you had to have a vagina. That was it. Right. But no, we had to change those minimum entry requirements even, and now transgender contestants can participate. Jenna Talakova sued the organisation Miss Universe for not being able to compete in the Miss Canada pageant because she was transgender. She sued for discrimination after being disqualified in 2012. Presumably she won. So Angela Ponce completed her transition in 2014, and she previously told Spanish newspaper 20 Minutos, society is not educated for diversity. It's what made me go public. See, what she means is society hasn't yet accepted what they're told, that you have to accept this. They're not educated yet. We need to go on a journey with Owen Jones and Muppets like Owen. Here I am, says Angela, and I'm not weird. I just have a different story. A woman who came to life differently, but I'm a woman. So what about the contestants who will meet at the final Miss Universe? What does Miss Philippines think? Well, she's very, very politically correct. Miss Philippines doesn't care. Her name is Katrina Gray.
Personally, I have no problem with it, but I do understand why there is quite an uproar amongst all the fans and different people looking at the issue, because it is a very young discussion about the LGBTQ, and especially coming into the arena of pageantry where it's traditional that it's natural-born women. But you know, I think it really depends, one, on Miss Universe organization. If they allow it, then that's their prerogative. And also the bansa itself, or the country itself. If that contestant who may be transgender can go through the casting process, become a candidate, get judging, and then earn the right to represent her country, then why not? Who are we to say, you know, that's wrong? I mean, it's the discretion talaga of the organization itself.
Who are we to say it's wrong, said Miss Philippines. Well, you've got to say, Miss Philippines. I mean, if you don't think it's wrong, you're entitled to your opinion. This is the whole point. Everybody's opinion should be heard so long as people are not inciting harm or constantly insulting people. Let's have opinions on it. She's deluded, the Spanish transgender woman, in my opinion. And it's only my opinion. She has deformed herself by having her penis removed because she believes that she's a woman. And I think society is being browbeaten into enabling this. Again, not by transgender people. And again, do you know what? I'm going to shut up because I've said enough about this in recent times. I'm going to shut up. That's what I feel about it anyway. I think it's ridiculous. I think you'll get a lot of politically correct statements by the other contestants until they lose to Angela Ponce. Then they'll have plenty to say. Paul tweets, Richie Ponce is someone who's always asking their friend for money, or it certainly is in South London, where I grew up, i.e. John's a right Ponce he never gets around in. Hi to Brandon Rail, that's right, Brandon. I tweeted Brendan, didn't I? Brandon, sorry Brandon. Hi Brandon, thanks for tweeting the programme today and for supporting it. Hi to Chris, hi to Rich, Mortimer, to Base Ninja, to Tez in Salford, my mate, to Cartoon Drunk, to Dean Smith, to Strong and Cable, and to everybody else who tweeted in today. Himanshi as well there. And Lance Burkett. Himanshi, of course, just outside Delhi in India. Must be amazing to be there. Lovely stuff. That's nearly it for Thursday's programme and for the week's programmes then. Very warm. I'm feeling it now. Very, very warm as the sun comes around to this side of the building and heats it up. I'll be back with you on Sunday morning. Now, I'm going to Liverpool on Saturday. I've been invited to a music festival in Liverpool on Saturday where I'll be for a few hours anyway. I'm not going to be there late. I'll be coming back Saturday night and I'm driving, so I will not be drinking at all. Did it once back in Spain many years ago. Drank, had a few drinks, drove, got away with it and was shamed by my better half and by my friends for doing it. And I have never done it since and will never do it again. I broke the law, and if I was caught at that time, I would have had to accept my medicine. I don't do it. Why are you talking about that now? Because it seems a lot of people are doing it. At a time when the police are being stretched beyond their limits through underfunding. It seems that a lot of people know that there is little or no police presence on the roads in the evenings, and they're having a few beers and they're getting into cars. I'm not going to be judgmental, because when I was in my mid-20s, I did it. And I'll never do it again. I did it once when I got away with it. I never heard the end of it from Caroline. Never heard the end of it for weeks and weeks and weeks, quite rightly. And I was ashamed. And I will never do it again. But it seems that now that there's such a dearth, a deluge, not a deluge, a dearth. There's an absence of police. People are doing it a lot now. You see beer gardens now. You never saw this in recent years when there was a clampdown. Now you're seeing beer gardens and you're seeing people sitting there drinking and you know they're driving. Don't do it. You're an idiot if you do it. I was an idiot when I did it 15 or so years ago, 12 years ago, whatever it was. Don't do it, right? Little lecture there. I'm honest enough to own up and say I did it once, only once. Having not done it, which was strange, having not done it for a long time, having accepted it was terrible and wrong, I did it one night. I was coming out of a place and I could have gotten a cab and I didn't. I got into the car and I drove home a couple of mile drive on a deserted road. But I could have killed somebody and I could have killed my passengers. Don't do it. Don't drink and drive. So anyway, I won't be drinking, so I will be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on Sunday for Sunday View at 11 a.m. UK time. And next week we'll return to the Richie Allen Show regular schedule, live at 7 p.m. UK time, Monday night, 7 p.m. UK time. But as I said, I'll speak to you before then on Sunday View. Right, so that's it. Look, have a fantastic weekend. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Try to disengage from this information from time to time. Try. Give yourself a breather from it. A lot of my most loyal listeners seem to spend a lot of time talking about these issues on Twitter. And I'm not going to criticise that. It's not a bad thing. I know you're trying to spread the word. You're trying to get information out there to people and you're fighting the good fight. Give yourself a break from it. Give yourself a break from it. Give yourself a time to recharge your batteries. Switch off your laptop. Switch off your desktop computer. Get rid of the phone and give yourself 2 or 3 days away from it. I do it every weekend. Take my word for it. Going to leave you with some David Bowie. That was Thursday's programme. Thanks for your company. I love you for listening and I love you for sharing it. I'll speak to you on Sunday morning. Until then, leaving you with Absolute Beginners from David Bowie. Speak real soon. Bye now.